Now, before we get into it, I'm just going to go rapid speed to explain a few things.
The Finsightful YouTube channel provides educational content only. All information shared by Finsightful, Matthew Brown, Nathan Moss, or any guest reflects personal opinions and is not financial, investment, tax, or legal advice. Viewers should do their own research or consult a licensed professional before making any financial decisions.
Okay, rapid fire over. Let's get into it.
Good morning, YouTube subscribers, Finsightful members, and crypto traders and investors. Coming to you from my apartment because I've got a busy day. I'm heading into the city for some client appointments and catching up with a couple of my business partners. So not in the studio this morning. What a month it has been. So we've seen a significant amount of growth in terms of capital value. This is your top 100 by market cap. Some of these investment protocols, some of these businesses are up, over 25, 30, 50%. Some of them are over 100%. And a lot of these protocols are going to be here to sort of stay. So if you're thinking about, where the price of SUI was, where the price of Radium was, FET, these were all at, really low prices a month ago. But the majority of this, even Render, Solana, a lot of these, Hyperliquid, a lot of these protocols are actually going to be either the core protocols that Web3 is going to be run on, or they're going to be the spoken wheel or the pitchfork and shovel, I guess, of Web3 technology. But the majority of the growth has actually happened in sort of the last week. So hopefully you didn't miss this pump and your crypto bags are looking a lot healthier. Overnight, we saw Bitcoin again push higher. We had a bit of a sell-off in BTC, and it looked like we had a bit of a rotation out of BTC into some altcoins, and that's why you see a lot of this driving up of value in these alts. But alts are significantly still underperforming Bitcoin. So here we've got the fear and greed, which I go through every week, and we're sitting smack bang on 50%. So we're basically sitting at neutral, and we're sitting at a neutral level where Bitcoin is sort of really sitting in a level of support where it could consolidate and then test its all-time highs. And that's my prediction for what's going to be happening in May. But on this channel, we're providing a huge amount of alpha. On Monday night, I spoke about how to set up your charts to look at the Monday highs and lows, and then look for entries around those two areas to be able to either look at a breakout or find resistance around the Monday low to then trade that up, and that's exactly what I did. Bitcoin dominance, it's sort of nestling around that 65%. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Ethereum has such a huge market cap. Until we start to really get Ethereum working, which, like I say this every week, alt season is just nowhere near going to make a comeback. Unless for some reason we have a significant increase in the likes of SUI, Solana, ICP, Hyperliquid, some of these other larger coins that are coming in, AVAX. And once they do, if they start to, as a group, become a much larger portion or percentage of the alternate universe, then that's when we can maybe see that alt season start to take off if Ethereum doesn't make a comeback. This is an interesting thing here. So this is looking at the largest blockchains in crypto ranked by total value locked. So this is how much capital have people staked to support these different types of change? And we've got $180 billion worth of capital there. And Ethereum is by far still has the most, but we're seeing significant amounts of inflows into other protocols. So if you think about that, so Tron's number 2 at 8.3 billion. Then you've got Solana, but you had 20% of inflows in the last month. So what this is an indication to me is people were transferring either Bitcoin or USDT into Solana at the lows of this month, and then they were then putting that on chain to stake it. So there's a couple of different ways you can make money by owning cryptocurrencies. The first one is you can own it by buying low, selling high, or selling high and buying low. Or you can actually own the asset, dollar cost average into it over a prolonged period of time, and then stake it. And then so staking is similar to putting your hard-earned cash in the bank and getting paid an interest return. But the risk with the additional risk with staking is that the validator has to maintain the rules and regulations of that particular protocol to continue to stake, because everyone that's staking is giving the governance and the support to that particular protocol. So if the validator that you've actually put your capital with does something wrong, then your capital is at risk of being taken away by the protocol. And look, all the big validators are not really doing that, but it's just, well, they're not going to risk all the money that they've got tied up in those particular protocols. But it's really important that if you are going to stake, then do some research into who the validators are. Don't just look for the best return that you can actually achieve. Definitely look for the bigger ones. And then also, like all investments, like diversify. So if you've got, 100 Solana, maybe you put 25 with one validator, 25 with another validator, 25 with another validator, and then so you've spread your risk. If something does happen to one particular validator, you don't have all of your Solana locked up on that one protocol. But you can see here quite a significant amount. So if we can't, but there's quite a significant amount. So 46% of funds flowing into SUI. So SUI was like, in terms of price, very, very cheap at the beginning of this month, and we're seeing a lot of capital flowing in and then being staked on that particular protocol. Altcoins, yes, and then we've had some buying here when we hit the all-time highs, and it looks like a bit of profit taking out of the ETF flows. So let's just have a look here. No, we don't want to do that. I want to come over here. So all my tech is not necessarily working perfectly because, all right, here we go. So the US dollar has made a bit of a recovery. The VIX has now fallen back down into very, very reasonable areas. So it's currently earnings seasons in the US, and earnings are coming out quite predictably. So with all of the tariff wars that have been going on, with the first 100 days of the Trump administration, we haven't really seen, we had this initial Independence Day up here, have a huge spike in volatility, but since then it's really just come back down and is now sitting in a very, very comfortable area. And what's predominantly driving that is all of your big publicly listed companies have come out and said, well, look, we have hit earnings, and we actually don't think that there's going to be much earnings pressure over the next quarter, over the next 6 months, or over the next 12 months. They're all very much predicting to continue to grow both top-line revenue and profits, and then so for earnings. And then so USDT as well has come down significantly. So what this here is looking at is USDT dominance, so how much USDT is sitting on platforms, and a lot of that has now been reallocated into either Bitcoin into back into growth as it's back into crypto. So we want to see this come back down under 4. But what this does mean is that there are investors, or there are traders out there that still have a significant amount of capital sitting on the sideline looking for opportunities. And so what that indicates to me is we'll probably see some consolidation around this particular price in Bitcoin, maybe even a bit of a sell-off and a test of last month's high. And then, not last month's high, probably the March high, and then see where we go from there. So a trade that, again, price has significantly, so this area around here that we're looking at consolidating, I think we're going to see a continued consolidation over the weekend. I don't think we're going to see much action happen overnight, but yeah, we did have a nice positive day. And so how does that break down for a trade that I was talking about? So on Monday morning, I talked about and I walked you through how I set up my charts to actually track monthly highs, weekly highs, and daily highs, but something in particular that I track is the Monday high and low, because during the week, those particular zones typically get tested. And so what I mean by tested is we will see a test of the low and then a bounce off this particular area, or a test of the high and then or a test of the low and then a bounce off this particular area, or a test off the low and then like a continued sell-off. So it's like it's a break of structure. And so I was speaking about this particular trade on Monday morning. I then also on Tuesday night on my live market scan spoke about it again, and then on overnight on the Tuesday it actually filled. So I'll just break this down. So what I was saying before was that we were sitting. Let's have a look. Little replay. So we were sitting. Let's have a look. On the daily, let's find my actual days. So this was the Monday. So on the Monday morning, I was talking about this, and what we had is we had a high here and a low here. And so I was saying, well, look, this is our Monday high and low. When we're talking about looking at support and resistance and confluence of price, these particular areas typically get retested during the week. And so what I did was then we had this inside bar on the Tuesday, and so this inside bar hadn't completely closed on the Tuesday night because we still needed the US. So I was talking about this on Tuesday evening Australian time, which is basically coming up to Tuesday morning in the US. And I was talking about that, and then I said, look, when we're looking at these particular areas, I think that this inside bar means that we're going to see a bit of a sell-off. But I think we're going to see a sell-off, and we're going to see the bulls come back in and then actually push price back higher, or test these highs up here from the monthly high, and also the weekly high, and then also the Monday high. And so I looked at this trade and I was like, okay, I put a buy in here just above this wick. And then so the reason I looked at that is I looked back here and I was like, oh, we're seeing all these wicks coming through this sort of 93,000, but there's a lot of buyers down here. So could have I got a better entry potentially down here? Yes, but price didn't come that far down. So I wanted to make sure I got filled. And so I looked at this particular wick here and I was like, okay, so that was a close there. That's a close there. There's probably a fair few buyers that we have sitting in this particular area. So what I'm going to do is make sure that if the price does come down into this area, that we're going to get filled. And so I set my buy price at 93.50, so a little bit above that 93,000, because those round numbers is typically where a lot of people put their buy orders in. And we had a very tight stop loss. So very, very tight stop loss was literally just below below these wicks. So we had enough to come down, really test this area. But if we saw a move significantly down below here, well, this was probably not a bounce off here, but it was potentially going to be another sell-off. So again, had my stop loss sitting in there. And then what I was targeting was the somewhere below, because I looked at here and I said, we got the monthly high from March. We've got this daily high wasn't there. That was also we do have this daily high from the day before, the day that I was actually putting the trade in. And then I also have the Monday, and I was like, well, look, I'm going to have this set up so that we're going to target the daily high from this inside candle, and away we go. It was a four risk return R4, so 4-to-1 risk return. So that's a very, very healthy return that I'm very, very comfortable taking those types of trades. And so this is looking at it on the daily, but where it actually makes a lot more sense is when you're having a look at it on the shorter time frame. And so what you saw was price come down. What's going on here? This is not right. That's Sunday. Price coming down. It definitely did. Why is it? Oh, because we haven't moved forward in time. So what we're going to do here is just move forward in time. Let's just do this. And so what price action happened from here was we see price moving, and then we had this one big red candle. Well, there's this big, it's not red, it's white, but if you have a green, this big sell-off in terms of candle. So we had price opening here at the top of this. We had this big wick down into our price zone where we wanted to get filled. We just got filled, and then we saw a big push up from bulls. So the strategy that I had in these areas of confluence of support played out exactly the way that I thought that they would. And then we had this candle here, which is like a signal for it to be reversing. And so this is a 4 hour. So when I woke up the next day and I saw this sort of price action, I was very, very happy to be in this particular trade. And then price just ran off. And so within a couple of 4 hour candles, we saw our max profit being hit, and we're out of this particular trade, and away we go. So where to from here? So again, the Monday information is not necessarily as prevalent. We're now also in May. So what I'm going to have a look at is our monthly areas and sort of say, okay, well, our monthly area for last month is actually now here. So that's April. And our monthly low is going to be, our monthly low is a long way away, is down, oh, sorry, that's weekly. This is our monthly low is down here. So there's a huge, there was a huge price action from last month. We're talking, you know, from 74,000 to 90, what's that, 90, 95, 96. Huge price movement. So I've got those in. We haven't finished off the week, but we have finished off the day. So if I go into the daily, and the Monday high and low is not necessarily as prevalent anymore, I might actually start to just mark those out and keep them on my chart as well. But we're also looking at the daily high and low. So the daily high and low, that's going to come in from yesterday, and then the daily low down here. And so what we're seeing now in terms of price is we have some price action sitting above all of our weekly, our daily, and our monthly highs. And so we could definitely see a retest of this weekly high. And then what I'd be looking to do, if you're bullish on Bitcoin and you think that we're going to continue to see some price action increasing, we could see price pull back down into here, and then so price pull back down into this particular area, and then move forward. And so if you're looking for some, darling, I'm on a live. If you're looking at some price action, you can potentially put some fibs in here and have a look at, well, if the retracement comes back from this low to this high, where are we looking at? And so right again, smack bang on the daily high and the monthly is your 50%. So price coming back down into here and then bouncing off, it could definitely be something to look at. Being that it's Friday afternoon, we'll probably see a fair amount of volume come into the market in the London session, then also in the US, but then we're going to hit the weekend. So I probably would be looking to see how this price action works out over Friday and the weekend, and then Monday morning assess the Asian Open and the London Open to look for some new openings into BTC. So that's it for me today. Hope you have all a fantastic day today. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll speak to you on Monday morning with an update of what's happened over the weekend and Friday night's review. See you later.